Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical outlook and discussion here by Agents Weather Forecast. In this video, we're going to continue to do some more updates on Invest-92L and whether it can become Tropical Storm Bill and affect the United States. And as well, we do have another area of interest off the East Coast here, so we're going to be doing updates on that and whether that can possibly be the competition for 92L. So which one can possibly become Bill? That's exactly what we'll be talking about in this video. But before we get into the actual forecast, I would recommend you guys do subscribe to the channel, specifically if you like tropical forecasts, as we're just in June. We have obviously plenty of months left in the season to go, and as well, I do recommend you guys smash that like button to get the algorithm to recommend this video towards more people, and smash that bell icon so you can get notified as soon as I post a tropical forecast or whatever. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So here's a look now at the latest update here on the 5-day tropical weather outlook by the National Hurricane Center for the North Atlantic. And you do see we do have a new AOI, or area of interest, here for portions of the Northern Atlantic, specifically the Northwest Atlantic off the East Coast here. And you're probably wondering, where the heck did this come from? Well, actually, me and the tropical analysis team on David's server, Weather Club, you guys want to check that out, and David's server, and David's Discord link, which should be in the description in this video if you guys want to check that out. But the tropical analysis team actually aced this forecast. We actually guessed 1020 last night before the thing even became part of the website forecast. But we do now have a 20% for the next 5 days for a development, obviously, whether it's a depression or subtropical. And the thing is, this thing actually did pop up quite randomly. Although models have been kind of showing a low pressure coming off the East Coast, most of us did expect that not to be anything really subtropical or even a formation in general. However, there has been a trend actually yesterday with the ARRR, the NAM, everything showing an actual subtropical system. And it did have pretty full closed low as well. It had a pretty decent amount of strong wind, and I actually looked at the conditions and they're not too bad, specifically as this is going to more of an east-northeast track, so it is going to be going through favorable conditions, which is why we do see a 20% for the next 5 days and a 10% for the next 48 hours here. So there is a big area where it's going to form. It can either form very soon near the Outer Banks, or can form as late as all the way up into the northern Gulf Stream here, but there is definitely some good conditions. So we're going to be talking about this first, and then we'll be talking about Invest-92L. Updates on 92L, it is now at 50%, so now we do have a 20% for the next 48 hours. So we're seeing a large area of a trough in the low pressure, where we're seeing some tiny cloud tops and convection, as well as seeing a lot more tropical thunderstorms rotating around that low. So there is definitely a likelihood that we could see a tropical depression form possibly mid to late next week here, and even a tropical depression or even a tropical storm or subtropical storm cannot be ruled out the possibility, and that's why we do have an increase with a 50% for the next 5 days. I do think that the next advisory will most likely be 2060 for tonight, which I believe will be 11 o'clock Eastern, so obviously I'm watching out for maybe a 60%, but that's what we have so far for the National Hurricane Center. Let's now go ahead and get a look at the forecast for this new area of interest and whether it can become something or not. So here's looking now at the convection forecast here in the simulated IR. As you do see, we do have an area of convection kind of developing off the coast there of South Carolina. So we're keeping a very close eye on this. This convection was actually a lot more organized, and actually had a lot more higher cloud top rising convection yesterday and last night, which is why we did decide to put a 20% last night. But it seems as if a lot of that convection has died off overnight, going to a dual minimum and just kind of falling apart, because obviously there is some shear that is most likely getting a lot closer than expected at the moment here. But it does seem as if that convection is starting to pop up once again here. So we're going to keep a very close eye on within the next few advisories as well. I'm just going to be seeing how this goes overnight and see whether it continues to strengthen here convection wise, but it is supposed to get its act together. There is a pretty strong, obviously, southeast ridge right here. It's going to bring us some really dry conditions, and very, very dry and very high amount of shear. So there's going to be a ton of shear just off to the west here near the Outer Bank coast and the southeast coast in general. So it is actually just to the east of all the shear, and if it continues to an east-northeast track, it will actually gradually get into better conditions and with the Gulf Stream. So that's exactly why this is something to keep a very close eye on because there's still a trough. Or not, this is actually not really a trough just yet, but we do have an area of low that we do have some convection, and as well, it is around -40, -50 Celsius up there. So it is seeing some rising cloud tops, and that is signifying we are starting to see some increasing thunderstorm strength. But let's not go ahead and get a look at the ARRR and NAM on this. Alright, so let's not go ahead and get a look at the ARRR here for this area of low and see whether we're seeing anything on ARRR, whether it's going to be subtropical or if we're seeing any kind of rotating thunderstorms within this low, which can get us a better idea of what this formation will be and whether this can actually have a chance to become something, whether it's an invest or depression right now. So once we get into like the next few hours later tonight, there is going to be some thunderstorms kind of surrounding that low as it goes kind of deeper to the east-northeast, now getting off the coast there, North Carolina, and then it's going to make its way actually to the east-northeast, but let's actually get a look at the 12Z. Actually, sorry, I meant to say 18Z, so let's go ahead and get a look at the 18Z. So there we have the thunderstorms kind of off the coast of North Carolina, and then in the next 23 hours, there's that low pressure. It does have a little bit better structure, however, again, it's still a very small area of low as well. It just looks pretty unorganized due to the amount of shear and the amount of dry air there is in that region as a result of the southeast ridge. But it does look like there is a chance this can very well become an invest. I'm not saying this will form, but there is a chance this could definitely become an invest, and a subtropical system is definitely very, 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 very unlikely. However, there's still a chance because, I mean, this has better conditions. As the days go on and as the storm goes east-northeast, it will have gradually better conditions. So there's a very low chance this does become Bill. I really, really doubt it. Because obviously, either way, 92L will most likely become Bill. But either way, this will most likely not become Bill whatsoever, but we can't rule out the possibility because obviously the National Hurricane Center found confidence to put 1020, so there's definitely a chance they can have the confidence to increase its probability to the point where it is going to make an invest. Let's now get a look here at the 10-meter winds as we look into there's that area of low. You can start to see those isobars. We are seeing some counterclockwise amount of rotation, so there is counterclockwise rotation. So, if this were to gain strength, if this were to have a lower pressure, if it were to go more favorable conditions, which is expected, that's exactly why I'm saying this can very well become an invest. Like I say, it's very, 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 very low chance it does form though, but I still can't rule out the possibility in 3-4 days, or not 3-4 days, but maybe 2-3 days that it does become something interesting up here as it goes up the East Coast. So, I mean, I don't want to say it's going to form because I really doubt it's going to. But again, there's a chance it could very well be very, very lopsided. Again, if anything, it's going to be very subtropical at this point. Like I said, it can become an invest. It may become an invest. However, like I did say, it's still a low chance. But I wanted to mention it because the National Hurricane Center has put it at 1020. Let's go ahead and look at the vorticity map here for the next few hours here in GFS. There you see we do have an area of some decent rotation in the atmosphere there with that vorticity around that area of that low. But as we go later on into the week, it kind of just becomes a lot more disorganized. Like I did say, I really doubt anything with this. But like I did say, we do have a ridge there, that southeast ridge that's going to bring a ton of shear up the East Coast. But right now, this is right here. So let's go ahead and see where that low pressure goes in the next few days. So as it goes into the east-northeast, it's actually going to avoid that shear just by a little bit here. So like I did say, there is, it's going to be avoiding the shear and the dryer as it goes east-northeast. The thing is, it just doesn't seem like there's going to be like really, I just don't think it's going to really perform. Like I did say multiple times, an invest cannot be ruled out. So this can very well become 93L. Will it be anything else than that? A tropical depression also is very unlikely, but it can still be a possibility. Obviously, we just can't rule it out because I bet if I told someone last night or yesterday that we will see a 1020 off the East Coast, they'd say no, but there it is right here. So we just can't underestimate it just because it's a low risk or because it was unexpected. But let's now go ahead and get a look now at 92L. Alright, let's now go ahead and get a look now at the convection here for portions of 92L here. So let's go ahead and get a look at that. Sorry, I just moved my webcam. You guys probably like went from there to there. I do apologize for that. I just didn't want to cover, you know, like the main area of convection here for the Bay of Campeche. So right now, we do have a actual X located on the National Hurricane Center. That's exactly where we're watching at for that low. So there's a low right there. It is very, very open right now. Although there's still very little amount of shear in the base of Campeche and a ton of moisture. It still has to get its act together. The most amount of convection is actually into the northern quadrants. We are seeing up to negative 70 degrees Celsius up there in the atmosphere. So we are starting to see some rising convection with some rising thunderstorms here. So although it's very disorganized and open, this convection is going into a dual maximum phase right now. It's getting to act together, but although, like I said, it's really disorganized right now, but it does seem that it's going to start getting its act together. I know I said that really quickly, and I think I stuttered a little bit, but it's going to start getting its act together later today. But starting to see some strengthening thunderstorms down there for portions of the southern bay of Campeche. With that low pressure very, very open at the moment. But we're going to watch out as this goes into tomorrow, and then eventually, what's today? Today's, hold on, let me check my phone. Today's Sunday. All right, so since I'm in summer break, I lose track of time. So by later today and into tomorrow and even possibly Tuesday is when we're going to really start watching out for this to get some full-on counterclockwise convection and developing outer banding and all of that, just like we're seeing with Carlos. We're expecting to see that within the next 48 hours or so, but looking decent at the moment. So here's a look now at the 18Z model track guidance. So we actually do have a ton of storms actually having this kind of looping around the southern bay of Campeche right now. I do doubt this will make landfall into Mexico. Or not really landfall. I mean, you know what I mean. But there's a chance it's low pressure will kind of hover around the bay of Campeche for the next few days. That's exactly what models have been showing. This low pressure kind of going in and out between Bay of Campeche and Mexico. There's a chance it could kind of go all over the place, you know, kind of just hover around. And the reason why this thing could very well be decent, maybe a moderate tropical storm, is because if it does hover in the Bay of Campeche for the next few days, it definitely has a chance to be quite a decent storm before it actually leaves the protection area. Because once it leaves its kind of home, it's going to go into some dangerous conditions with the amount of shear and dry we're talking about. But models have been, specifically GFS, have been kind of backing off on the severity of that shear. So overall, it's looking not too shabby. And that's why GFS has been showing a strengthening phase. They went from like 1,000 yesterday, kind of going weakening trend, to now a strengthening trend to get, I think it was 997, 998. I gotta check and confirm that, and we'll see that later in the video. But obviously, we can't get a good look at the tracks right now. Obviously, it's very, very far after that. Alright guys, let's now go and get a look now at what we're seeing here with the GFS here. If actually my webcam can actually move for a second. Hold on guys, let me move my webcam. Alright, my webcam should be moving right now. I'm not sure about it. There we go. There we go. Technology. Yes, technology. Very good. So let's now go ahead and get a look here at what we're seeing here with the GFS right now. Let's go ahead and get a look if we can move this. I'm not sure why this is being difficult right now. I do apologize, guys. My Bandicam screen wants to be difficult. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and now get a look at what the GFS 12Z is showing for us. So let's now go ahead and get a look here. This is June 14th, so you can kind of see there's that low pressure down there in the southwestern bay of Campeche. Like I did say, it's going to kind of be hovering around there, kind of just stalling around there. Like, remember Cristobal? Cristobal kind of like made a loop like that, and then it went straight like that. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like going to be looping around, kind of hovering until it actually goes out into the open and out into the real world. So it's going to be staying there for at least the next 40, or not, at least 24 hours, and then it kind of goes into Mexico and then comes back here. And there's a low pressure to 1,006 by the June 17th time period. And then we have all the way up to 1,006 by June 18th. So there it is, June 18th. It's going to be most likely this could very well be tropical. However, there is still a discussion that maybe it's only subtropical. But considering the lightness of the shear and the moisture bubble, it does look like there's still a chance it can be fully tropical, not subtropical, just like we're looking at for the AOI. And then by 1,003 millibars by June 19th, it makes landfall here on June 20th. For a portion of Louisiana at 997 millibars. So yeah, I was right. They showed 997 for that landfall near Louisiana. So it looks like they're back to Louisiana, because I believe earlier they were trending it here last night near Gulfport. Like I said, I think Louisiana is gonna be the main area to watch, but we still can't rule out possibility Texas. So this kind of be my area to watch out, because obviously we are still days from this actually forming and days from this even leaving the Bay of Campeche. So we still have to keep a close eye on this location wise. Let's now go ahead and get a look now at the Canadian model. So they do have this low pressure now developing once again in the Bay of Campeche, but coming off the Yucatan Peninsula. So they have it developing right here, while GFS has that low pressure kind of right there. That's exactly why that area of development is so large and covering much of the Bay of Campeche, because models are kind of iffy. They kind of have a better idea it's going to be Bay of Campeche, just not the exact area. CMC, on the other hand, does have it a bit weaker, so it's going back and forth. CMC had it stronger than GFS yesterday. Now GFS has it stronger than CMC. I'm guessing maybe because the GFS did go a little bit lighter on that amount of shear and actually having that ridge bending a little bit more in a severe way. So that's most likely why GFS is once again trending this. Let's now go ahead and get a look here at the 500 millibar vorticity forecast here. So let's now go ahead and look. We do actually have a decent amount of vorticity signature as early as tomorrow. So there is going to be some decent vorticity within this, even though it's only an invest. And that's going to continue to increase that vorticity as it hovers over these really warm Bay of Campeche waters. By the 15th here early in the morning, continue to strengthen that vorticity. And then that continues to come out of the other way. It kind of comes out the other way, the Bay of Campeche. And then by June 18th, there is that really strong signature of vorticity. And that vorticity kind of increases last minute because based on the future SST map, it looks like the waters are going to be warming up and extremely warm on the 19th and 20th off the coast of Louisiana. I'm talking 29.5 to almost 30. So this can very well really warm up just before the landfall there for portions of Louisiana. So really watching out for that. And some strong signatures for vorticity when it's over Louisiana. So keeping just a close eye on weather. This can very well strengthen just before landfall. Let's now go ahead and get a look at the CMC vorticity. So obviously we have a pretty decent but kind of scattered out, not really organized vorticity signature around that trough and that low on June 17th, as it does come out the northeastern Bay of Campeche, and it does as well kind of have it strengthening a little bit last minute before affecting Louisiana. So looks like CMC and GFS and I believe the Icon are actually being consistent with this Louisiana. But let's now go ahead and get a look here what the European is showing with vorticity. So let's now go ahead and go looking at the European vorticity. So they do still have there the concept that little closing the isobars. That's exactly where that weak low pressure airs that area trough. And then they have that vorticity. I believe they actually have it making landfall actually in portions of Texas. So they're kind of leaning back once again to portions of the Texas coast. So that's exactly why I'm watching that all the way from Texas to portions of Mississippi for landfall. Let's now go ahead and get a look here at the 10-meter winds here for the GFS. I did forget to show this in my video yesterday, so I do apologize for that. So the good thing is there's not really that much different with the wind speed here. So let's go ahead and get a look here at the next 40 hours. You can kind of see we're seeing some decent winds within those areas of convection, but obviously that won't really make it a tropical depression because it will have some land interaction, allowing it to not really form until really it kind of goes into the south central Gulf of Mexico. We're going to be expecting possibly up to 45 miles an hour. And just before it actually gets closer to Louisiana, we're talking almost 55 miles an hour. So it's going to definitely maybe be a moderate tropical storm. It will possibly bring some gusty winds along portions of the Gulf Coast, as it could definitely have a pretty large wind field, specifically in those northeastern quadrants, but that's definitely something to keep a close eye on, whether that shear will be kind of going within that low pressure. That's exactly really the only reason why I think this could maybe be just subtropical, but it's kind of 50-50 subtropical, tropical, because that Gulf, I mean, you do have that pretty large moisture bubble, that big moisture bubble there. So that can very well help protect that severity of that shear within that low. And I mean, the shear can still open up that low, especially if it does start to have a larger wind field. But the good thing is the low pressure in general in that area trough will be quite small. So that big alley of shear should not really do too much damage. So speaking of the shear, let's go ahead and go look at the shear forecast here. So right now, obviously, the Bay of Campeche still has a decent amount of shear, especially kind of in that northeastern portion there, getting at the 50+ knots. But look at the southern Bay of Campeche, really untouched, a pretty big, large area of 0 knots of shear, since the low pressure really disorganized right now, and really small wind field, although they don't really have really a wind field just yet. But that convection is kind of blowing up right here, so there's not really anything kind of preventing this from falling apart here. So there's definitely a good chance it can very well get its act together by tomorrow morning. And then as it goes later into now the 16th and 17th here, that low pressure is going to be kind of pushing to the north here. And there, look at that huge alley of just no shear whatsoever. So it's going to get a pretty good kind of sidewalk straight to the Gulf Coast here. Very, very little shear. That ridge will be bending. There's that high pressure bringing that extreme amount of shear across the northeast and southeast. I mean, northeast Gulf and southeast United States. And that, look at that big alley. Just no shear. This is the 19th and makes straight on landfall. And it takes it straight to central Louisiana. So there's a big bending in that shear for it's going to be 500 millibars, I believe. No, this is 850 to 200 millibars. So we're seeing a pretty big gap within that lower atmosphere to the higher atmosphere. So overall, it looks like there's going to be some really low amounts of shear in that lower atmosphere and middle atmosphere, which will help allow the storm to kind of gather its ingredients, the warm SSTs, the big moisture bubble, and including now a less severity to the shear, and its gap has continued to get a lot larger. We're talking maybe a good 100 miles of just zero, or not, maybe like 50 to 60 miles with that absolutely no shear, and then overall, maybe 200 mile to maybe 300 mile span or radius with less than 20 knots of shear or 25 knots of shear. So overall, it's looking pretty good on the shear forecast here. Obviously, we do know there's going to be a pretty big moisture bubble. Look at that big moisture bubble there. June 18th, June 19th, and June 20th. Absolutely crazy in a pretty large moisture bubble. Like I did say, waters right now are going to be pretty warm across the Bay of Campeche at the moment, specifically the southern portion. So not too shabby at all. 29.5 degrees Celsius. But as that go later into around June 17th, June 18th, look at those waters off the coast of Louisiana really warm up quite a lot here. So if it were to go to Louisiana, it can definitely strengthen a good bit just before landfall, as long as it doesn't have a large wind radius, or sorry, wind span, which will kind of decrease the amount of land interaction effects. But look at that, by the 20th, we're going to be seeing, or by the 19th, seeing almost 31 degrees Celsius waters off Louisiana. And last but not least, let's go ahead and look at the European tropical depression probability here. So look at the next 0 to 3 days. We do have that area to watch out for that disturbance there. We do have a 50 to 60% for the next 3 days that have tropical depression winds, while 92L does have a 70 to 80%. Last night, go to the 1 to 4 day, and that'll continue to decrease as it goes into further away from the Gulf Stream, those cooler waters, although it does move away from the southeast ridge, and then still 80-90% there for 92L. And look, a huge increase in this tropical storm probability compared to yesterday. Yesterday, we had a very small 40 to 50, but now we have a very large 60 to 70 along much of the western Gulf of Mexico, and that even goes up there into portions of the Gulf Coast. Tropical storm probability as well has increased now to a 30 to 40%. So that's actually our highest number we've actually, we actually get a 40-50%. We now have a 40 to 50% for tropical storm wind probabilities. That's a massive increase to yesterday, because yesterday was only a 10 to 20. So definitely things are getting very interesting for 92L.